Welcome to today's Explainer. We're jumping straight into one of the most pervasive myths of our modern era, the illusion of digital privacy. Today, we're cutting through all that slick marketing jargon and those reassuring buzzwords to look at the cold, hard reality of what is actually happening to your personal information. We are asking the ultimate question about your digital life. Who actually holds the key?
Look at the device you're using right now. Think about your text messages, your location history, those private photos of your family. You probably assume that because your phone has a passcode and your accounts have passwords, you're the one in control, right? But as the data clearly shows, that assumption is dangerously flawed.
Let's kick things off with a statistic that should immediately grab your attention. 84%. According to some incredibly extensive research by the Mozilla Foundation, 84% of major car brands openly admit to sharing or outright selling your personal data to third parties. We're talking data brokers, service providers, and businesses you have literally never even heard of.
All right, Section 1. The surveillance reality.
If you've ever had that creeping sense that you're being constantly tracked everywhere you go, well, Mozilla's research completely validates it. This isn't paranoia, it's the documented business model of the tools we rely on every single day. Researchers reviewed 25 of the top car brands to see if they met just the absolute minimum privacy and security standards. 25 brands tested, all 25 failed. 0 passed. The researchers actually called modern cars a privacy nightmare and said it was the worst category of products they've ever reviewed.
And the stuff they're collecting? It is terrifying. We aren't just talking about engine health or basic telemetry. These vehicles track your exact driving speeds, your location history, and even what music you listen to. But it gets so much deeper. The privacy policies of car makers like Nissan and Kia explicitly mention the collection of highly intimate details. They're talking medical information, genetic information, and yes, even your private sexual activity. Your car is essentially a massive data-gobbling surveillance machine on wheels.
Now, this surveillance reality isn't just corporate. Governments are heavily involved too. For instance, records regarding Canada's Signals Intelligence Agency, the CSE, reveal programs like Project Levitation. This was a mass surveillance project that actively monitored up to 15 million uploads and downloads every single day from free file sharing websites. So the tracking of our digital footprints is happening on a scale that's almost hard to wrap your head around.
Moving right along to Section 2, misleading privacy marketing. So how do tech companies get away with all this while making us feel perfectly safe? Taking some brilliant insights from tech lore, we get to the core focus of today's Explainer. Companies essentially lie to us using technical jargon. Listen to this quote: completely private and secure using 256-bit SSL encryption. Sounds impressive, right? Bulletproof even. Apps like the baby photo service Keepsake use these exact buzzwords. They promise absolute security when you upload sensitive photos of your kids. But guys, it is entirely designed to build false trust.
It is absolutely crucial to understand what these terms actually mean. TLS, or SSL encryption, which is often called encryption in transit, does do something. It creates a secure tunnel between your phone and the company's server. So it stops a random hacker sitting at your local coffee shop from intercepting your data midair. But, and this is the massive catch, once that data hits the company's servers, it is fully visible to them. They have absolute access. You're basically just delivering your private data securely straight into their hands.
And this isn't just a hypothetical worst-case scenario. Take a look at Flow, a super popular period tracking app, and Life360, a family location tracking app. Both of these companies promised their users top-tier security and privacy, and both were later caught literally selling that highly sensitive health and location data to third parties. The marketing was just a shield.
Let's move to Section 3, Understanding True Encryption. If we can't trust the marketing, we have to understand how real security actually functions. Think of encryption like a lockbox. With in-transit or at-rest encryption, your data is in a lockbox, sure, but the company, say Google, Facebook, or whoever made the app, holds the only key. If they want to look inside, or if they get hacked, or if they decide to sell your data, they just use their key and pop it open. True privacy requires end-to-end or zero-knowledge encryption. In this setup, you hold the decryption key exclusively. The company stores the lockbox, but they have absolutely no way to look inside, ever. Let's make this tangible with something a lot of you probably have, the Amazon Ring doorbell. By default, Ring uses standard encryption. That means Amazon holds the key. They, or their employees, or even their contractors, can technically access the footage inside and outside your home. Now, Ring does offer a true end-to-end encryption feature, but you have to actively dig into the settings and manually enable it. Only then do you take exclusive control of the key and actually blind Amazon to your video feeds.
All right, on to Section 4, the threat to encryption.
Just as we start learning how to protect ourselves, the rules of the game are shifting. True, zero-knowledge encryption is currently facing some massive external pressure from government legislation all over the world. A prime example is playing out in Canada with the Lawful Access Act, better known as Bill C-22. Now, according to the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, this bill seeks to enact a regime where the government can force digital providers to build surveillance backdoors into their secure services. The CCLA makes the point that government-mandated backdoors fundamentally weaken cybersecurity across the board, because a backdoor created for law enforcement is naturally also a backdoor that malicious hackers or foreign states can exploit.
The response from privacy-focused companies has been severe. Top platforms like the encrypted messaging app Signal, the privacy browser DuckDuckGo, and NordVPN have publicly stated they are seriously weighing a total exit from the Canadian market. They are basically threatening to abandon the country entirely, rather than comply with laws that would force them to break their end-to-end encryption architectures.
Let's get to the good stuff in Section 5, taking back your privacy.
Between the corporate data harvesting, the misleading marketing, and the legislative threats, it's pretty easy to feel totally overwhelmed. But you are not powerless here. Here's how you can adapt. First, let's lock down that car of yours. According to the AP archive, you need to dive into your car's infotainment screen settings and actively opt out of data sharing. Second, if you use your car manufacturer's app on your phone, heavily restrict its permissions. It doesn't need to track your location when you aren't using it. And finally, never sell a modern car without doing a full factory reset from the menus to wipe your digital footprint.
Next up, your phone's operating system. Pulling some great advice from the White Hatter for Android devices, you should immediately go in and enable theft protection and offline device lock. That secures your phone if it gets snatched and loses its network connection. Also, get familiar with your power button's lockdown mode, which temporarily kills biometric unlocks like your fingerprint if you feel you're at risk. And most importantly, constantly review your settings to strip unnecessary app permissions. Does that random flashlight app really need access to your microphone? Definitely not. Turn it off.
And speaking of securing your phone, what actually happens if you interact with law enforcement? Summarizing some legal advice from Hogan Law, if you are lawfully arrested, police are generally allowed to search a phone incident to that arrest to preserve evidence or ensure safety. However, and this is absolutely critical, they cannot legally compel you to hand over your password. You are not legally obligated to unlock the device for them.
The digital world relies on our complacency. It relies on us just blindly clicking agree without reading and buying into marketing slogans without verifying the actual tech behind them. But now you know the difference between a secure tunnel and a secure vault. So I want to leave you with a final thought to really cement today's explainer. When you upload your photos, your private messages, or your location data, if you don't hold the key, who does?
Brought to you by Microdyne Computers. If you like the information presented, please consider sharing, giving it a like, and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.